something to fight for.
Follow in the footsteps.
Take a leap of faith and ride with the wind. Born upon the turning tides. My faith will follow me. Tries to begin out upon a world so wide. I face my odyssey. On the crest of the wave, on the point of the blade, it will carry me. My odyssey. On the drift of the wind, on the course of the kid, it will carry me. My odyssey. And within the world of change, where the voices of all are heard, under faces of fear they reign, we will hunt them upon their words.
Crimson are the rivers. Justice in my hands.
I ride with the wind, born upon the turning tides. My faith will follow me, tries to begin out upon a world so wide. I face my odyssey.
On the crest of the wave, on the point of the blade, it will carry me.
My odyssey. On the drift of the wind, on the course of the kid, it will carry me. My odyssey. On the twist of the road, on the shores ever gold, it will carry me. My odyssey. On the peak of the ridge, on each side of the bridge, it will carry me. My odyssey. Winds of the ocean carry me. Winds of the ocean set me free. Winds of the ocean carry me in the fading dawn of time. Winds of the ocean set me free. We'll go across the line. Good morning, friends. Heya, folks, and welcome to another painting stream. I'm Thanatos, also known as Andrew, or the other way around, I'm Andrew, also known as Thanatos. And this is my daily painting stream, most days. Weekdays, 10 a.m., I get online and I paint some minis on stream. I have been doing it for more than a month now. And I just posted over the weekend to my YouTube channel, links below, or if you're watching this on YouTube, the channel you're watching
I just posted a quick video that summarizes the pieces that I painted on stream last month for April. But now, welcome. It's May 2021, and we're going to continue to paint minis from the Warcry demo for the Battleground Games and Hobbies in Abington. I put a poll up online over the weekend. I put up a poll asking people what they'd like me to paint on stream this week. And the results were pretty darn conclusive. 100% of the respondents, admittedly there weren't that many, but 100% of the respondents told me I should be working on these cute little Furies. So let's take a look at them and let's talk about what we're going to be doing this week. So switch to overhead cam. Oh man, it's kind of blown out. I can fix that quickly. Hang on. Before I switch to it. Better. All right. So let's go to overhead cam. Here we are. Here we are. And so let's look at the Fury models. Here they are, primed in gray. Not too exciting right now, but gives us an idea of what we're looking at. We've got 2 each of these things. There's not as much variety in these as there were in the Raptorix that I did last week. But there's 6 models, 2 each pose. So here's pose number 1, where he's sort of standing on this plinth and he's got a dagger. He looks happy. He's got a great big grin on his face. What a happy little Fury. And then we've got this really, really tall one, also holding a dagger, also standing on a little piece of stonework there. It's a very awkward pose. Maybe he's sort of jumping off of it. He's leaping off of it. Implied motion. And then we've got this one who's squatting down. So, before I start, let's talk a little bit about color selection. These are part of the same Chaotic Beasts army that the Raptorix are part of. Now, if you were watching last week, you saw I did these. I did 3 of the 6 Raptorix last week. And I chose to diverge pretty wildly from the recommended paint scheme. The recommended paint scheme for these, let's go to the GW here. This is the assembly instructions, and this is the recommended paint scheme for the Raptorix. All browns with some reds in there. Kind of muted. I wanted to experiment with these new paints that I got, so I went much brighter. It's all greens and blues and pinks, has a sort of tropical bird vibe to it. I am super proud of these guys. Like in 1 week, the work that I was able to do on these, I'm blown away by them every time I look at them. I'm incredibly proud of the Raptorix models that I did. But those Raptorix are part of the same army as these Furies. So I feel like I need to draw from the color palette of the Raptorix. I'm not going to paint these folks green, although I could, but I'm not going to. But I am going to pull the blues and pinks into these. I've been sort of contemplating it all morning. How am I going to do these guys? Let's look again at the color sheet from the assembly instructions. Sorry, this is at a weird angle. It's just I'm hitting the stand for my camera. But here we have, this is the guy who's crouching down. And you can see they've done him in very, very dark gray. It's sort of a khaki on the wings, and a light gray beard and horns. And then on his back, they've got some color on the wings there. There's sort of a little bit of red in there. They've got this sort of swoopy pattern on the wings. I don't know what's going on with that. And they've got some faded in red along the spinal column there. I love the idea of highlighting the spinal column, so I'm going to do that. But instead of doing it in red, we're going to do it in pink. We're going to do it in the Kunzite Alchemy, which is the pink from the wings of the Raptorix. And this sort of swoopy pattern here, I'm going to do something, probably not exactly like that, but I'm going to do something on the back of the wings. And I'm going to do it in Kunzite Emerald. The Emerald Alchemy. So Kunzite and Emerald on the back. I'm not going to do him in dark gray. I want, again, to pull some color out. So we're going to do him in a very dark purple. This is from my WizKids kits of paint, so it's a much smaller dropper. But this is hexed, what is it? Lichen. Hexed lichen. It's a very dark purple. So that's going to be his core paint scheme. And then we'll have much brighter areas on him. And then thinking about the face. So they've got his beard in white. I'm probably going to do the beard in the deck tan, which is that sort of pale that I've been using. It's a slightly bluish white. And the horns. Do I do them in the same? I probably do. Do beard and horns the same color? What do you think, chat? Let's get to work. Let's get to work and see what I'm going to do, as we did with the Raptorix last week. I'm going to concentrate on one model today and see what we can put together in terms of a color scheme and see how he ends up looking. So I'm going to start right in with that purple. Again, this is Hexed Lichen, WizKids color. Of course, we're going to get my favorite brush. I need to get another one of these. This is my Citadel small layer brush, which I love so much. Let's start getting some paint on this fella and see how he looks. A reminder to anybody who happens to tune in, anybody in chat, anybody watching the YouTube video. Apparently, I have YouTube video viewers because we had one of our YouTube viewers catch the stream live last week for the first time, so that's nice. Makes me feel like actually people are watching. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube and you have a Twitch account, I am doing my push to, oh, it's over there. My push to affiliate with Twitch, which means I need to get to 50 followers. It's a big ask, but let's see if we can do it. Maybe we can hit 50 followers in May. In April, we did more than 10 over the course of the month. I think we did 12. So to reach 50, I think we need 17. That's a big ask. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. I don't know if I shook this up sufficiently. It's so small that there's not as much space for the paint to shake up in. Anyways, let's start doing this guy. This is probably my favorite part. Well, I've got a lot of favorite parts of painting, But getting in and starting to paint, you see a lot of the details of the model. So this guy has cute little toesies here that I'm going to get to paint at some point. This is a nice paint. I probably could have blended it better, but it looks pretty good. So my thinking is do this nice dark purple base coat, and then when I get to highlights and stuff, I can do it in lighter blues and stuff, not white. I've never worked in almost blacks, which is what the GW recommended paint scheme on this guy is. I've never worked in anything quite so dark, and I know that's going to be a challenge I'll have to take on at some point, some glorious day. I'll do that. So I see this guy has those same little protrusions on his thighs that the Raptorix did, sort of like little claws or teeth poking out of his thighs. The physics of that anatomy seems awkward. I have to assume, I guess, I don't know, they're probably like horns or teeth. But horns and teeth, right, they're rooted in bone. So these would have to be in his femur, right? Coming out through his skin. And I feel like your thigh, the muscles and skin move a fair amount around the bone. Maybe not. But you'd think that would be sort of tugging and twisting awkwardly. I don't know. It's a nice dark purple. It looks really good. And it'll look even better when we get a wash on there and get in to do some dry brushing and highlights and stuff. So he has claws on his feet. They're not just feet. They're sort of digitigrade with a dew claw at the back. I don't know how to describe that. But he's using it to grip this piece of scenery that he's standing on. So yeah, someday I probably will have to do something in a very dark color, just as practice, because I know it's a challenge, just like painting in white is a challenge. And that's kind of the irony of the fact that I chose Tau as my first 40k army, and I ended up painting a lot in white and learning how to do that sort of on the fly. Painting in very dark colors is a challenge as well, because you need to be able to get the contrast to see the details on the model, otherwise it just looks like a hunk. It doesn't really come across. So there's his spine that we're going to be highlighting a little bit. I am painting my camera a lot. That's a sign of somebody who paints frequently. I'll have to post a picture of that to my Discord at some point, because you can't see it from this angle. But there's a lot of paint. There are several sort of blaps on the cable and on the stand that my camera is on. Seems like a slightly glossy paint. I wonder how that's going to react to the wash and stuff. Oh, speaking of glosses, if you watched that YouTube video that I posted yesterday, you may notice that the bell tower piece of terrain and the giant head piece of terrain ended up looking a lot less glossy. I did a matte varnish, just a spray-on matte varnish, Army Painter spray-on matte varnish, and it got rid of the gloss. In fact, in places where the gloss was particularly thick, it did something I really didn't anticipate, and it crackled it, or reacted with it somehow to form a crackle on the surface. It's very weird. You can see it, I think, in the video. If you look at the back side of the bell from the bell tower, it's on the bell itself. I think you can probably see it in the video. You can very much see it when you look at the piece in person. But I had not anticipated that reaction. And the overly glossy look of the pieces that I was very frustrated by, completely gone. So that was nice. I had to wait for a nice day out, because you don't really want to use a spray-on when things are gloomy out, because it doesn't dry very well. I've not been cleaning my brushes frequently as I normally do today. Okay. Just got the underside of his tail here. I say his, but I don't know if gender really applies to these guys. This model has a beard, which is a typically male trait in mammalian folks. I don't know how it works in Furies. What should I do with the tip of the tail? We'll come back to that. We'll think about that. What's going on with my brush here? Lost a bristle. Like I said, almost time for a new brush. It is my favorite brush, and I've used it a lot. There's a lot of little bits in this sculpt that are going to come across when we do the dry brushing. One thing I do want to try to do when we get to finishing Friday this week, and I get into finish work on the model, so I want to try and do some finer detail in the sculpt with my highlights and dry brushing. By which I mean, if you look at the professional GW version, let's bring it back up here. If you look at this, you can see that along the edges, the bones, and on the haunch here, there's a lot of fine very fine lines put in, and it's a little more obvious on the face. I want to practice doing that, because that's not necessarily in the sculpt. It's in there a little bit, but it's enhancing the sculpt. It's more than just dry brushing. It's actually adding in detail at that stage. What color do I make his dagger? I wonder. Get to that a little bit. Got little fingernails and toenails to do. We'll do those in the same color that we do his horns in. His dagger has the grip, which will be one color. It's got a pommel and the cross braces here. And then the blade itself. Just looking at the sculpt to get an idea of how I'm going to do that. I do love making color choices and figuring out how I'm going to paint things. Once I've done it for one model, it's just copying myself and carrying it over to the other models. But it's definitely a lot of fun to try and figure out how you're going to do things. I think it's probably also fun to try and exactly emulate the recommended paint scheme. That's a challenge as well, to try and do things exactly as they have been done by a very professional, high-level painter, which is what, you know, the folks who do those manuals are there. Definitely professionals. And you can find painting guides, and lessons, and all sorts of different stuff from Games Workshop to help you achieve those color schemes. Steve D from Battleground Games has just started working on the giant Bellacore. Well, I say giant. It's about twice the size of this Bellacore demon, just covered in astonishing detail. And he's decided to go with the official GW paint scheme, and is looking at painting guides and stuff to try and figure out how to do it best. This paint is definitely drying sort of glossy, but that's fine, because like I said, we're going to do a wash, and then we'll be doing a varnish afterwards. Interesting to note that this fellow has 6 limbs, because he's got legs, arms, and wings. I don't know why I'm being so careful and precise on this. I'm going to be painting around it a little bit later today. So part of what I'm going to do to make these obviously part of the same army as the Raptorix is that I'm going to do very similar scenic bases. So we'll do the same color scheme for the bases. We'll add some skulls to the bases for these. Maybe some swords or, you know, other detritus to make it look like they're part of the same battlefield. That is a Thursday job. I kind of like how last week worked in terms of how the painting process went from day to day. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I worked on new figures, getting base coats on. And then Thursday, I worked on the scenic bases. And then finishing Friday, got in and did all the finer details. So my goal is to do the same with these. Do probably exactly the same. We'll get 3 done over the course of the week. Does mean that in order to do all 12 6 and 6 of the chaotic beast figures is going to take me 2 full weeks. But I did always say I am not a fast painter. I feel like I've picked up a little bit of speed after doing all that terrain that I did the first 3 weeks of April. But I'm still not a very fast painter. Okay. Get the fingers of that wing done on that side. Oh, you can see them on the other side. Okay, we'll do that as well. And we have to think about what colors we're going to do in the membrane. Like I said, we're going to go to a greenish blue for the outside edge of the membrane. On the wings, we'll think about how we're going to do that.
Little home painted white, hands entwined, dim the phone's candlelight, peace of mind. Everything we could want is right here, so let all the
I think this is a brilliant color. I think it looks really good on the model. Paint gets some really nice coverage. At some point on stream, I'm going to have to experiment with other paints. Sort of what this whole stream is about, is experimentation and trying out new ideas and stuff. I want to try some of the Citadel contrast paints. My wife has used them a little bit in her painting, primarily playing with the contrast whites, because they help a great deal when you're trying to paint in white. Painting in white, like I mentioned before, is definitely a challenge. Still haven't decided what we're doing with the horns. We'll get to those in a little bit. I chose to start with this figure that's posed all standing tall like this first, because I knew when I'm choosing my color scheme that I'd want to have as much access to the model as possible. Like the crouching one, it's going to be very hard to get to his chest to paint that. And when I'm already wrangling with color choices, I don't want to also be trying to do difficult to reach areas. We'll get to that guy, but maybe not till tomorrow or Wednesday. These folks were fun to assemble. A lot of strange, just in this sculpt, there's a lot of interesting angles to glue together. Like this one, I feel like this wing, the torso, and this leg are one piece, and then this leg is another piece, the head is another piece. This wing and perhaps this arm are another piece. There's a lot of different pieces to this guy, and in the assembly he was a challenge. Get a little more purple paint out. I think I shook it up a little better that time. This arm. One thing about color choices is you don't really need that many different colors on a model to make it look great. fact, unless you're specifically going for a garish sort of look, you don't necessarily want that many colors involved. You want the... So I sort of think a little bit when I'm doing color selection about how the model's going to look from different distances. Like, how's it going to read when it's on the table, far away from the player? How's it going to read when it's being inspected close up? And I kind of want it to look good in both situations. So what that means from a color selection standpoint is I'm not going to do too many different colors. I'm going to have this basic purple. I'm going to have highlights on the wings and spine. Probably have a different color on the tip of the tail. We'll have something for horns and teeth and nails. Something for the beard. And something for the membranes and the rest of the wings. So that's what? 5, 6 colors? That should be plenty. And then, of course, I get to do a lot more fine detail work, which will be contrasting colors on Friday. As part of Finishing Friday. There, but that's fine because I'll come back in and do the beard. I'm done with the face. He's got little elf ears here. A little troublemaker this guy looks like. Gremlins. Thinking about these wings. How I want to go with them. Like, do I want the membrane to be darker than the color I've chosen for the rest of his flesh? Do I want it to be lighter? Obviously in the example, it's lighter. And I'm going to have much lighter highlights when I get to that. Here. I do these very careful edges on the base coat, not because I'm not going to be able to go in and fix it, because obviously I'm going to be going back in and painting over some of these areas that I'm doing these edges on, but more so that I remind myself, you know, future me, that there's a portion there that I want to be a different color. So looking at this, I can see I've left these on the thighs and on the arms unpainted, so I remind myself, oh right, I need to go in and do something with that later. And I get in here with the wash. Some of the details on these wings and stuff. Fingers on these wings. On Steve D's stream yesterday when he was working on Bellacore, he was like, I don't know what to call these bones that go between the membranes on the wings. So I went online and I did a quick Google search for bat anatomy, and in all the diagrams I could locate, they just called these fingers, because that's what they are. It's just the fingers of the bat hand, as they've got a membrane there. Of course, they're much elongated. I was like, there must be a technical name for those. Nope, just fingers. I'd imagine that they're still fingers if they're bat wings on a demon, right? The bits that do have technical sounding names are the membranes, because they're named. It's like, I can't remember it all, but it's sort of, you know, first interstitial, second interstitial. They have specific names for the membranes. Each one has a different name. Which would make sense if you're a veterinarian or something, and you have a wounded bat with a torn membrane. You'd want to be able to quickly communicate to other veterinarians which membrane it is. That's where nomenclature often comes in. Technical nomenclature is professionals who deal with those pieces need to be able to communicate with each other quickly. So they need to have the agreed upon vernacular. This is one of the many, many reasons that I didn't go into biology and pre-med and all that stuff when I was in college. Is that there is a lot of memorization involved. Bent there. Just unbend it. These wings, I feel, are a delicate point on the model, in danger of being snapped. The foam carrying case that I have for these, I used pluck foam, and a lot of space has been dedicated to these wings to try and provide them with a little bit of reinforcement when in storage. almost done with the purple. And then we can move on to some other colors and start to see how our choices are going to look. I have to do the rest of his face here. I have to do the backs of his wings. And then we'll move on to another color. This would be why it takes me so long to do figures. I'm so meticulous and spend so much time on base coats and stuff. Someday, as a challenge to myself, I'm going to have to try and do figures quick. I'll do a speed run. We'll pick some figures that I'm not trying to get this level of detail on, a small army or something. And we'll see what level of detail I can get done with contrast paints and washes and dry brushing if I go a little bit faster. We're going to give these guys exactly the same red eyes that we gave to the Raptorix. That will also, because it's a focal point, because eyes are something that you're drawn to if you're a primate like myself. Eyes are one of the first things you look at subconsciously when you're looking at a model. So if these have similar eyes to the Raptorix, that will help to reinforce the notion that they're part of the same army. The fact that these and the Raptorix have the same, the same little spikes coming out of their thighs seems to indicate to me that lore-wise they may have common ancestry. I don't know. I haven't looked into the lore on these, but that feels like a shorthand way to say, yeah, these things are not only the same army, but are in some way related to each other. Okay, so this first base coat here has taken about an hour, almost exactly, since I went live. I have to make a decision about these membranes. I don't want to lean too heavily into the all purples and blues. But then if I'm going to be adding details on the wings in that metallic pink, I don't think I want to go for like a flesh color on the membrane. And again, the membrane is the same skin as is on the digits between the membrane. It's just stretched taut. So it should be a similar color. Oh, you know what would be a cool challenge? I don't know if I can do it here. But something cool would be to try to make the membrane actually look translucent. To paint it as though light was shining through it at the edges. Oh man, that would be so cool. I don't think I can do it here, but if I ever do like Be'lakor or some other large demon, I'm gonna have to experiment with that. Just put a pin in that. I've got several paint projects that I want to get to someday. As ways to push my abilities and test my limits. So we'll add that to that list. Painting in any sort of translucency. I think I could probably figure out how to do it. Probably want to get some reference for it. Look at how actual bat wings look with light coming from the other side. Want to probably end up painting in some veins. That could be a really fun challenge, but I'm not going to do it on these particular models. So I'm trying to get 3 of these done this week, and I feel like that would slow me down as I experimented. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit more work on the tail before we move on to our next color. Go. So I started painting at 10 or so. It's 11:04 now. So yeah, about an hour. Get this first color base down. Quite happy with this deep purple though. Looks great. Alright. So yeah, I said I was going to do a little bit more on the tail here. On to our next color. I think I'm gonna do some deck tan. Let's do his beard and his horns. So again, this is Deck Tan Vallejo. I've been using this a lot lately for areas that are meant to be marble. It's a very faintly bluish white. Well, actually, okay. So we use that on his beard. It's a very, very sharp contrast right now. But when we get a wash on this, it'll look a little less stark, I think. For the horns and toenails, I want to go a little more yellow. Not brown per se, but a little more yellow. Alright, this is going to be awkward. Getting the back side of his beard. Let me just leave part of that unpainted. Nobody's going to look at the backside of the beard, right? I think even in a painting competition or something, you'd probably get some leeway for that. And I'm not submitting these to any competitions. They're just for my own benefit and as demos for the store. Get this portion. There we go. Alright, so there's some beard done. For the teeth, horns, and claws, I am going to go a little more yellow. What should I do? While I ponder that, I'm going to switch brushes. I'm just going to quickly get a brown in on his the blade of his, or the grip on his dagger. And do flat earth. And this is a smaller detail, so I'm going to my Psycho brush, which I normally only use for like exceptionally small detail. But I want to sort of get in between his fingers and stuff here. Should have done this first. Probably touch it up after. Still pondering those horns. Like I could go with more blues, but I don't want to do that. I missed part of his arm here. Bit of his forearm that I missed. Awkward angles. Good morning, Andrew. Hey-o. Good morning, good morning. How's your day going so far? I am painting this guy purple. There. Alright. So now, back to the choice I am trying to make and got slightly put off by painting that bit of dagger there. That choice being, what color do I paint his fingernails, toes, and horns and teeth? Fingernails, toes, horns, and teeth. Maybe the tip of his tail? What do you think, chat? Do you think the tip of his tail is bony? I think it might well be. I think it's got these, I don't know if you can see it in the sculpt here, but it looks like it might be bone. Okay. I have a metallic I could use. The citrine? Is that too bold? Oh, you were muted. Hi. Yes, good morning. Hello, hello. Yes, I am often quiet on stream, but not that quiet. So, Andrew, here's the dilemma I'm working on right now. I'm finished with the purple on this fellow, and I'm trying to decide what color to do his horns, teeth, nails, and the tip of his tail here. I could go just a light blue, but I think I could go with a bony color, yeah. I've gone with a white on his beard, so that's going to end up looking... It'll look less harsh when I get in with a wash. Right now, obviously, it's a very, very harsh contrast right there. So I was thinking, I have not used this paint, but I have this Citrine Alchemy Metallic. Would that be too weird to give him metallic bone? A red or a purpley red lobster says? That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Instead of going blue, move towards reddish. I've got a number of different flesh tones. Maybe I go cork brown? No, that's too light. Too light. I love difficult choices, but it does slow me down. You would do a reddish, orange, or brown. Yeah. Like I said, when I get in with a wash, a lot of this is going to look different. Let's look at my paint collection and see what I've got in a sort of bluish reddish thing. Let's see, I've got Warlord Purple. Parasite Brown. Heavy Red. That looks a lot like the just red from Vallejo. It's a wash. It's a wash. Yeah, red might be okay after a wash. What's this? Dried blood. Very dark. Is it too dark is the question. Fresh blood. So many colors. I have so many colors, friends. Look at this. I'm going to do a brown wash when we get to the wash part. Yeah, highlighting afterwards. I'm going to go red. We're going to just do, this is the dark red. If you recall, this is the color, oh, I don't have them out here. The color that I used here. On these, it's that color there. It's a nice burgundy. And I think that's probably going to look good. Thanks for your help, chat. And then, of course, the wash and highlights will help to bring the whole thing together. So we're going to do this for a number of things. Going to do it for his little talons here. Just give him a little manicure. So, you're a Fury, huh? How's your day been? That's fascinating. Oh, yeah. Oh. Eviscerate any humans this week? I realize I'm turning a little bit into the wife from Faulty Towers. Oh, I know. Let's give him a little mani-pedi. He needs that. Even Furies need a day off. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I think you folks made the right choice. Going red and not going yellow. Like I was saying much earlier in the stream, part of what I think about when making color choices is how it's going to read when the figure is far away from you on the table. And having too many harshly contrasting colors can detract from the overall look. I need a little more purple on my palette. I'm noticing little areas that need just a tiny touch more purple. How'd that happen? Okay. I did say I was going to touch that up after doing the grip of his dagger. More red. She's got little claws up here on his wings. Little thumb claws. Wonder how much anatomy the sculptors for these folks have to study. If you're doing bat wings, I'm sure you have to look at a lot of bats. You just did a Gulthias tree for the Sunless Citadel. Sounds interesting. I hope you'll post pictures in my Discord, Andrew, so that I can take a look. Let's do the tip of his tail in the same. Yeah, they have 6 limbs. They have hands, feet, and wings. But the structure of the wings is very similar to a bat's wings, where it's digits and a membrane held between them. See how he looks with red horns as well. Trimmed that better off the sprue. Oh well. I'm sure Past Me tried his best. That does look pretty good. What about the tail? Oh, we're getting to that. we're getting to that. The tail and the wings. So, you folks weren't here at the beginning of the stream when I mentioned this Fury is part of the same Chaotic Beasts army that the Raptorix I painted last week are a part of. So part of what I set as my goal today in my color selection is that I have to use some of the same color scheme in the Fury that I used in the Raptorix. Because I need to make them seem like a cohesive army, a single whole. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. Alright, so I love how this looks. This red on the horns and fingernails and dew claws and all those little bits there. That was an excellent suggestion, chat. I think I'm going to do his teeth initially in the same deck tan that I did his beard in. I could do red teeth, but I feel like it would detract a little bit because I'm going to give him bright red eyes and I don't want the teeth pulling away from that. So obviously the teeth are going to be a couple different layers because I'm going to get in here with a wash and do some highlights, but for a start we'll do them in this deck tan. Teeth, teeth, teeth. Oh, actually, that reminds me. One of the weird details in these models is that they have these little pointy bits on their arms and legs. You may recall the Raptorix have these little pointy bits on their arms and legs. So, you know, it's a magical fantasy world, but I feel like there's some common DNA between these Furies and the Raptorix. But more than that, it's just a when you're playing the game thing. I want them to be clearly the same army so that when you're learning to play the game or playing with the pieces, it's obvious which pieces are part of which army. So even if there's not a flavor reason for them to have similar colors, I want them to have similar colors. Go. We're getting closer on this. It took me a while to get all the purple done because there's a lot of it. But getting Getting some of these little details in there. It's beginning to make him come to life. So one of my goals over the next few days as I work on the community for Thanatos Paints. I'm reminded of this by the fact that my Twitch bot just mentioned the gardening game. So I want to do more community stuff that people can do in chat and in Discord to hang out together and do things during those times when I get quiet or whatever. I love what folks have been doing with sharing stuff in my Discord with painting, so we can see what other folks are working on. But I need to think about other community stuff. Alright, wings, the membranes. I was debating earlier, do I go darker or do I go lighter? Because I'm going to be doing some shading on the wings, and some detail work on them. Don't want to go too light. Do I have a lighter purple? I have blue violet. Let's see what it looks like in contrast. So they're going to go darker out towards the outer edge. If you look at the recommended paint scheme, which obviously I'm not doing, you can see that on the backs they've got this sort of, I don't even know what to call it, tattered look. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to do something as we work towards the outer edge. Let's see what this purple looks like. It's not significantly lighter. Alright, time to consult my paints again. I want a lighter purple. I could go to a light blue, but I feel like that might be too... Or I could go to a dark blue? I could go to a gray. Ooh, not a bad idea, Andrew. Choose a figure and have everybody paint it. I actually have something that might work with that coming into the store. Okay, I'm going to go night blue for the wings. This is a darker blue. See how it contrasts with the purple. One of the things that you folks missed is it too dark? I think it'll be okay. One of the things you folks missed when I was talking about no, I've forgotten it. I distracted myself and I lost it. Oh, on the wings. One of the things I was contemplating but decided not to do today because it would bog me down too much is wouldn't it be fun to try and paint the wings as though they were translucent and light were actually shining through them? So that's not something I'm going to do on these guys, but it is something I'm going to, at some future date, try to do as a way to challenge myself and try and learn some new techniques. My thought is I'll just buy a demon figure of some sort from the store. And then we'll mess around with that. Try and figure out how translucence works. I'll have to look up some reference images. Like, do the sort of flashlight through the hand effect, but on wings. Oh, I think it could be so cool. Not doing it today, but it's something I definitely want to try. Okay. What do you think, folks? Too dark? Not enough contrast? I think it'll be fine, because we're going to be adding other stuff to it. Yeah, I've got several paint project ideas for ways to push myself and to try and do new and exciting things that I'm sort of percolating on. So I'm working on all this Warcry stuff, as you know. And it's going to take me a little while to complete all the Warcry stuff. Just because there's so ding-dang much of it. But once I'm done with that, I've got several other projects I want to try. I like the idea of the translucent wings. They're painting techniques that I want to pick up and practice and try and learn. You can kind of see the brush strokes in this, but I think that's fine as long as the brush strokes go in the same direction as the membrane. I can do a second coat, but I do only have the 2 hours. Although I could go late today. There's nothing saying I have to finish at noon exactly today. Amanda doesn't get home until 1. After we're done with these membranes, I'm going to work on his dagger a little bit. scratched him on his wingtips here, which is why bits of gray showing through the paint. So if I was going to do a community paint along, I wonder how much it would cost me to ship simple models around the globe. Because not all of my community is in the battleground location, the battleground area. I could probably ship to the continental US relatively cheaply. They're not heavy. So for like $3, I could probably ship a model anywhere in the US. My community isn't so large that that would be an outrageous amount of money to spend for something fun to do with everybody else. I doubt I could afford to ship stuff to the UK, unfortunately. So, some of my followers would not be able to get things to, unfortunately, if we were to do a community paint-off. But if I use one of the common painting practice models that GW provides for free to a lot of game stores, folks might be able to go to their local game store and get one. I like that idea, Andrew. Doing a community paint-along. I'm gonna get rid of that message from Tanatbot. Don't need that. If people want to integrate their Discord, they'll figure it out on their own. Yes, speaking of the store, are there more boxes for you? So I was out last week on vacation, and when I got back, all the boxes I had put aside for you were gone. I assumed that Chad grabbed them or you grabbed them. If you want me to put more boxes, I can. You took them. Okay. There are always more boxes. You have no idea. I've got a bunch of boxes in the back hall that I didn't get out to the dumpster yesterday or Saturday. But most of them are smaller boxes. I don't know what size boxes you want. Those are the perfect size? Okay. I will set aside another 10 or 20 boxes this week and have them for you by Friday. What's the timeline on your move, Andrew? I mean, I'm assuming you want to complete it before Shannon is due, but I don't really know what your timeline is like. Yeah, a slow roll move is definitely the superior move technique. That's what Amanda and I did last year, where we had a month overlap between this place and our old place. So we could be moving for an entire month instead of having to do one madcap dash. Especially since we're doing it mid-pandemic and trying not to have contact with anybody at all. So we did all the moving ourselves. Got particularly difficult at the end because by the end of our move, Clara had fallen through the window and we were doing cat search and move simultaneously. Man, that was brutal. I do not want to repeat last year. I realize you've got a lot of stuff on your mind with this move and everything, Andrew. But I have to admit, one of the things I'm most looking forward to is seeing your new stream space, because you'll be creating yourself a whole new stream space. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes out. Man, this sounds like a lot of coordination. Your sister has to move into her new house. The new bedroom needs to be set up for you. The nursery needs to be set up. And you have to do all this packing and moving. And you have to be done by the end of July or the beginning of July. I missed it. It sounds like a lot of coordination and a lot of things that have to happen in a particular sequence, which is always a challenge. Alright. Making progress on these membranes. Insane in the membrane. So on the underside of these wings, in the membrane, they have sculpted just little lines here. I don't quite know what to make of those. Are they tension lines? I guess if the wing is slightly contracted, like it could be much wider. So those must be wrinkles in the wing. We'll see when we get to Thursday and Friday how adventurous I'm feeling. Maybe I will try to do some translucence effect on the underside of the wing to imply that there's light shining through it from above. It's going to take a little bit of research, some reference to work from. But it might be something that I can at least imply. Need more paint. Sweet coffee. All right, Andrew. Do what you gotta do. I'll probably still be here when you get back. Okay. One more wing. One more portion of one more wing. And then we'll work on his dagger. And ooh, oh my goodness. I never got the backside of this horn here. How did that happen? I got distracted. Left on the palette. It dries up so quickly. There we go. Just a little bit of gray plastic here that he's getting. There. And underside of this horn I never got for some reason. The underside of the other side? Yeah. Alright. I just missed that. It's fine. Cool. Cool, cool. Back to the swing. Paint the wing without painting his arm. This is where could use that. Brush with a U-bend in it. You know what they should make? They should make brushes that are like bendy straws that have a joint in them, and then you could go pop, 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 pop. adjust your brush to the angle that you need. You would need a way to lock it though. You wouldn't want it unbending as you're painting. I guess you don't put a lot of pressure on the brush while you're painting. As long as it took a modicum of pressure to adjust it, you'd probably be fine. Somebody trademarked that though. Bendy brush. It's probably trademarked already. I adjusted my camera so that I could concentrate more on the model and less on my workspace. But now you guys can't see my paint water. My paint water is brilliantly purple right now, unsurprisingly. Almost there. Excuse me. Old burperino. Take a short bio break in a moment. As nature calls. And finish the last membrane of this wing. And then I'm going to take a short break. And when we come back, do the dagger. And we'll do some other fun stuff. Plans, folks. I have plans for this figure. Go. Alright, I'm going to take a short break. I am not going far, and I will be right back. So, you folks do whatever you need to do. Stretch, get a drink, use the facilities, do human things, and I will be back in just a couple of moments to finish the base coat on this model. So, be right back, folks. I'm back. Did you miss me? Alright, so it is about noon now, Eastern Time, and we've made some progress on this figure, but I want to finish him up. I want to get the complete base coat done today. So I've got a couple other little bits that I want to do. Let's get right back to him. So let's go back to Zoom Cam and check him out. So here's where we're at right now. Very bright white beard. It's not actually white, it's that deck tan, so it's an off-white. I do like chat's recommendation for the horns. That burgundy, that dark red looks great. The wings, we've got that dark blue in there. I'm going to quickly do the dagger here, and for that I'm going to use two different colors. We're going to, if I can find, there we are, my gunmetal. Nope, that's Castle Gray. There we are, gunmetal. It's very handy metallic that I use a lot. Don't need much. There's not much to that dagger. Just the pommel here. Blade and the crossbars. I figure those could all be the same color, right? Man, I haven't thought about tambourine in ages. Chat, tambourine was my family's boat at one point when I was growing up. Yes, my family had a boat. It was a Concordia yawl. Probably still out there. It's a fast little ship. And Lobster is saying that Tambourine's deck was that deck tan. That's why it's called deck tan. It's a ship deck color. Alright, so also on this dagger, there's this little square here and that little round bit in the pommel. Just for funsies. Do those with a technical. Nope. I'm gonna do those with Spirit Stone Red, since I've got so much red on this model already. Or should I do it in Soulstone Blue? Should it be a sapphire, or should it be an emerald? Why do I do this to myself? Why do I spend so much time trying to make choices? I'm going to do blue. Citadel makes this trio of gemstone paints that are basically just a very bright paint with a built-in gloss. You can see this is Soulstone Blue. I should use a smaller brush for this, but I'm not. Cool. There we go. Alright. There's his little dagger. Looking cool. Alright. Couple other fun little things that I want to do with this model. Actually, I'm going to paint this thing he's standing on. We'll get to the bases on these figures on Thursday, but I might as well paint this bit since it's sculpted anyways. It's not going to take long. It's just a little spiky spike here. And a little piece of stone. We're going to go to deck 10 for. And once we're done with that, let's have some real fun with this figure. This is kind of funny. So, this piece of terrain that he's standing on is very similar to the larger terrain pieces that I've been painting. With one exception, it's got a skull sculpted here instead of a warrior's face. It's kind of amusing because in the rest of the terrain there are these busts of warriors, but here, this piece of terrain that he's standing on, instead of a warrior, it's a skull. Weird. Just a quick little bit of paint in there. Hardly anything to it. We're going to give these folks scenic bases very similar to the ones we did for the Raptorix. That's a Thursday job. Before then I need to have a couple more of these folks painted up. Now, to the fun bits. I put these off for last because these are the parts that I was most looking forward to. So he's looking good, right? He's got a lot of detail on him already. A wash is going to help with his glossiness. We're going to do a lot of highlights and stuff. Andrew, if you're still there, you asked about the tail. Well, here's the answer. Kunzite Alchemy. This is the outside edge of the wings of the Raptorix. So this is where we're going to try and draw the color palette of the Raptorix into the Furies, to try and make them feel more like a cohesive army. I think doing a brown wash is also going to help. But here we go. Bright metallic pink. Oh, that's vivid. Wow. Probably want to fade into that to some degree. Do that, but we can try. Looks a little garish right now.
The streets spin shimmers and the walls they curl. The grip of greed, it rains. There's just one track to lead this moving train. The price of progress is a dying world. The price of trust is pain.
Let's try doing a bit of a fade in. A bit of wet washing here. Make it look not so stark. as I did on the Raptrix, I'm trying to blend a little bit on the model. Make this a less harsh split. Of these knobbly knobs. I'm gonna get to go in here with the wash and some highlights and stuff later. Cool. Pretty happy with that. Yeah. All right. So that gives him a little bit of definition there. Now, fun with wings. Hey, remember this? It's Emerald Alchemy from my Metal in Alchemy. This is this color here on the Raptrix. More greenish bluish. Now, you remember how on the backs of the wings here in the illustration, they have this sort of, I don't know what you want to call it there, tattered look to it. It's been painted in. We're going to do something similar, but not exactly the same. This is going to be going in on the wings on the back here, on the membranes. Rather than do a fade, do a pattern. This is where I'm doing more experimental stuff.
I'm bleeding out my spirit. Breathing out my soul. Now loyalty's a pistol. My heart is full of hope.
If I mess up, I can always paint over it.
Breathing out my spirit. Breathing out my soul. Our days are almost over. Times have changed around these parts.
One fine point on my idea
There
is
ain't no more cowboys.
do like a fractal spiral pattern.
Only men with violent hearts. There's a price to pay for all that we have done. Turn my eyes away and watch the setting sun.
What do you think? Kind of Tron-y? I think you get the idea here, right?
Broken bone and liar's led, caught off guard and left for dead. Luck keeps turning as the light begins to dawn. And by healing hands I'm safe, pulled from my shallow grave. I can feel reprisal aching through my
Cool.
skull. Set my sights on shining spires. Set
Takes a bit of concentration here. But I think I like the way it looks. It's a little weird. What do you think? Ah, it's bizarre. But I like bizarre. Also gives me some creative license. So this way we've pulled a little bit of the colors from the Raptorix into this. Made it a little bit more vivid. We'll do something with the underside of the wings too. Thank you, Lobster. I think he's looking cool too. So that's my rough idea of what I'm going to do with the backs of the wings. brush strokes more than I like here, so I'm going to do quick second coat. A couple of areas. Wash all of this. It's going to look very different. Let's do the other way. Having some powerful deja vu right now, but I know I've never painted wings like this before. Maybe I'm remembering tomorrow. Are not going to be exact mirrors of each other, which I think is fine. I'm just sort of making this up as I go. These are supposed to be chaotic beasts, right?
It's been a long year. I know you're tired and you're
Getting the hang of this. I had a vision in my head, and I'm beginning to realize it on the model.
this trial of fire, but you got through. And I know the world's gone wrong, but you're still present, you're still strong. Hold on. Through all your pain and all your tears, you're still resolute and you're still here. It's been a long year. It's been so heavy on your soul. And though your scars have hardened and have turned to armor, it took its toll. And I know the world's gone wrong, but you're still present, you're still strong. Hold on. Through all your pain and all your tears, you're
Keep painting the cord for my camera.
It's been a long, long year. Oh, but you're still here. Ooh, it's been a long, long year. Yeah, but you're still here. Oh, it's been a long, long year.
There. What do you think, folks? A very different interpretation for the wings. All right, one more quick detail for these folks, and I'm going to say I think I am done for today. Let's get his eyeballs. For this, I'm using Scarlet, bright, bright red. So on Thursday, we'll work on a wash and a base. But for today, like when I say base, I mean not the base coat, but the base here. We're going to do a scenic base. Add some skulls, add some dirt. give him too much eyeball. Perfect. The other side. He looks angry. All right. Well, I think that is very interesting looking, to say the least. Might pull back on the eyes a little tiny bit here. Yeah, I can't wait to do a wash and get some details on him. But that's a very interesting base coat, I think. It's got a lot of coolness to it. I mean, the purple's kind of bland. It's kind of boring. But it won't be boring when we're finished. It's just boring right now. There's going to be a lot more that we're going to get in there and do. But the wings look interesting, right? That's kind of cool. Pretty happy with how that came out. Anyhow, I think we're going to call it there for now. And I've frozen. So, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I had fun as always. Thank you to especially Lobster and 10 Rabid Bears for your help in color selection. I will be back tomorrow morning at 10, and we'll do another of these, folks. We're going to just keep going. We're going to get 3 base coats on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday we're going to do the wash and work on the scenic base, and then Friday, finishing Friday. So we've got a plan. We just need to be able to stick to it. Thank you ever so much for being here, everybody who joined me. Thank you for folks who end up watching this. As always, it is having you in chat and having you folks commenting and liking and being a part of this that keeps me motivated and makes sure that I get this stuff done. So, enjoy the rest of your day. Be excellent to each other, and enjoy doing whatever art it is you choose to do. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.